Hi, my name is Shane. I use she and her pronouns. This is the second of two sessions of Jason Cordova's role-playing game, The Between, about monster hunters in Victorian England. The session was organised as part of the Gauntlet gaming calendar, and Gauntlet is a community that talks about and plays a whole lot of different role-playing games, especially story games, indie games, OSR games, all kinds of games like that. If you would like to find out more or get involved, come play with us. Check out gauntlet-rpg.com. Or we have Gauntlet Community Open Gaming Weekend coming up at the end of June, so just a couple of weeks away as we're recording this. And that will be a great opportunity to come and try out a one-shot or another short game with us, all for free, if you want to check out the Gauntlet and see if that's something that you're interested in doing more of. I will also mention that we are playing with safety tools today. So just a reminder, we have a list of lines and veils in the character keeper if anyone needs to reacquaint themselves with that. And the X card and the open door are also in effect. So that said, I will ask the players to introduce themselves. Let's go left to right across the character keeper, and I'll just get you to tell us your name and pronouns, anything that you'd like to tell us about yourself, and briefly introduce your character, who they are and what their kind of deal is. So, Gabe, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Gabe. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm playing Jim Fletcher, the American, and just trying to be very, very American in Victorian London, just the most American possible.
A truly horrifying goal. All right, Joel.
Hi, I'm Joel, he, him pronouns. I am playing Reeves, who uses she, her pronouns. She is the factotum, so she's in the employ of the mother, Jenny's character. And she's just, trying to be a good little helper.
Excellent. So, Jamie, maybe you should introduce your character here, and yourself, of course.
Yeah. So, hi, my name is Jamie. I use they, he pronouns, and my character is based on the Mother playbook, which I have it open on my PC, and I realized the second page is missing. So
there is an up-to-date version that has the second page that you can download from the Patreon if you are a subscriber.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. I'll have to do it later because I'm using my phone's internet and my computer internet has been down since yesterday. But yeah, so from what I remember, I'm playing Malik, who uses he, him pronouns. I remember Malik has a wonderful collection of waistcoats, so that's the most important thing, aside from the fact that he's trying to build a child. But no big deal. Totally normal.
Just normal child building.
So there you go.
If there's anything that you need from the playbook sheet, I can screen share or just find it for you or anything. Hopefully the character keeper will take care of you. And Blake.
G'day, I'm Blake, he, him. I'm playing Helena Henbury, she, her, as the vessel, which is like a medium for supernatural creatures. And yeah, she's down with the gothy black lacy clothes.
Excellent. So just want to briefly recap where we're at in the story. So you're all investigating a haunting at 18 St James Street in London. There are at least 2 deaths associated with the haunting. Recently, the one that sort of brought you here, that got your attention, was a young maid named Ginny Hess, who was found both frightened and frozen to death. And that echoed the death of another servant decades earlier. So last time, we pretty much played through the day phase of the game, which has 4 phases based on parts of the day. And you met the family that live at 18 St James Street. You encountered some spooky phenomena. You collected a whole range of clues, and as the afternoon faded, you were able to answer one of the 2 questions attached to this threat, which is which part of the house is the ghost attached to. And so you now know that it is the clocks that were brought here from a country house that burned down many years ago. And as a result, because you solved that question, you all have access to a custom move now called Old Bones. I've pasted the text for Old Bones in the notes section on the Threats tab on the Character Keeper. So if you scroll all the way down to the bottom there, you'll see Old Bones. To activate that, you have to first mask the Janus mask called the Cosmic Passage. So if you want to trigger the move, that's something that you'll need to think about doing at some point. We're going to start today in the dusk phase, and I'll explain what that means in just a second. But is there anything that you want to ask or clarify before we get into play today?
I just went in and checked off the question and the clues that we used.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. So yeah, you have one unused clue. So one to start out on your next threat question, which is how can we get this ghost to pass on to the next world? So you'll need to investigate that some more. So the dusk phase, I will definitely be referring to my notes here. Let me see. Sorry, where are you? All right, so in the dusk phase, the first thing that we do is resolve any playbook moves or custom moves that are resolved during the dusk phase. Does anyone have anything, Gabe?
Yeah, I have the quickening, so I have to check in on my curse.
So tell us about that. How does that happen?
Yeah, so the quickening, you live with a curse that causes you to become savage, even feral, to the point where your body physically changes. At the start of the dusk phase, roll with composure or sensitivity, your choice. On a 10+, your body is stronger and faster, and you manage to keep the quickening in check. With some bonuses, on a 7 to 9, you manage to keep the quickening in check, but just barely. And on a miss, you lose control.
Nice. All right. Well, do you want to roll with composure or sensitivity?
They're both +0, so I'm just going to go ahead and roll.
All right. I'd love to hear just as like a flavor thing, whether you see yourself rolling this with composure or sensitivity. Like, how is it that you try and keep the curse in check?
I would say composure. Trying to, like, I feel the change coming, and I want to kind of just physically try to hold myself together with maybe some deep breathing, maybe even like do some exercise, even like do some push-ups and try to like work it out instead of getting overtaken by it.
Nice. All right, we'll go ahead and roll.
So I did the roll and I have a 10.
Great. Okay, so all right, so it's in check, and yeah, just remember that you have advantage when taking actions that use vitality.
Yeah.
I'm guessing none of us know you've got this other side yet?
Correct. Yeah, if I miss, one of the things is to reveal the curse.
Ah, that's interesting. Cool. Does anyone else have anything for the dusk phase?
I do. The factotum has the Ghost of Hargrave House. So during the dusk phase, you can remove a marked item from another hunter's personal quarters and add it to your own, unmarked. When you return the item to the original owner in the middle of a scene you are sharing with them, describe how it is slightly altered. They add the item back to their personal quarters.
So I'm not sure if anyone actually marked an item from their personal quarters last time.
I did. I marked my waistcoat thing.
Oh, that's right.
So do you want to wear my waistcoat? It's pretty hot.
Yeah, I think, that makes perfect sense. So I put that in personal quarters. That would be... Okay. Yeah, I think the ghost, I find like Malik's waistcoat probably in my normal cleaning and think nothing of it. Like they're just careless and left it around. And it's only until I like get it back from the dry cleaners that I notice something's been changed about it.
All right, Blake, do you have any dusk phase things that we need to trigger?
Nope.
All right, and Jamie?
Yeah, I don't think I do, but my phone screen's very small, and I'm...
Oh, no, that's okay. I don't think you do either. Your moves your main move is what, when you examine the corpse, or when you assemble the child, when you acquire a body part for the child. So neither of those has quite happened yet. All right. So the next thing that happens in the dusk phase, is that I'm going to pose a paint the scene question about Hargrave House to the players, and you will all get a turn to answer it. So this scene is going to take place in the trophy room at Hargrave House. And we all know that there were hunters living in Hargrave House before you, and trophies from their encounters with the supernatural can be found here. And I'd just like each of you to describe one of those trophies. So for this, I might start with Jamie or Malik. What trophy from an earlier generation of hunters do you see?
Wow, so these are hunters that are no longer with us, right? Because it's a long and storied history.
Well, they could be. They could have retired. They could be still hunting, I guess, alongside you. Maybe they're parallel groups, or they could be from many centuries ago. I guess they could be both.
Yeah. I think we see that there is, like one of those, like, it looks like a terrarium, like a glass case at first, and you just see the darkened leaves inside it, but there's something that sort of moves or shifts slightly. And when you take a closer look, there's like a gnarled monkey's paw, right? And I'm gonna say like four of the fingers have been broken already. There's like one that's not broken yet.
Oh my god! Nice. All right, Blake, what trophy do you see?
It looks like the standard sort of deer's head on the wall with the big antlers, but as you look closely, the eyes and teeth are they're from a wolf or some sort of canine. They're not from a deer at all. But you can only sort of tell unless you're really close to it.
Yeah, right. Joel.
There's a statue of like a it's a brass statue of kind of like a Virgin Mary type figure, and it always has like this green patina on it that Reeves is constantly cleaning, but the patina always keeps coming back, and it always starts at the eyes as if the patina was like its tears.
Nice. And Gabe.
There's a one of those silhouette like cameo necklaces, but the amulet's actually pretty big. And we can't tell what the silhouette is though, because the necklace at one point took a musket ball, and so it's totally cracked with the musket ball still embedded in it.
Wow, nice. All right. So the kind of scene that happens in the dusk phase, which we don't quite play out, is that the hunters gather to talk about what they're going to do at night to make any plans that they need to have. The night phase is the only time that you can resolve a threat. At the moment, you're not in a position to resolve the threat yet because you still need to answer that second question. So it's pretty wide open what you might want to do during the night phase. So the next thing is that I'm going to go around and ask each of you what your hunter will be doing during the night phase. You can all do something together if you want, but there's no expectation or requirement that you will be together. Jim Fletcher has an invitation of his own that he may or may not wish to follow up. The rest of you obviously have your own things that you might want to do, whether that's investigating, clearing conditions, exploring London, anything like that. So I think just left to right across the character keeper again, I'll just ask each of you what you're going to be doing during the night phase. So Jim Fletcher.
Can you actually come back to me? I'm still thinking.
All right, sure. Reeves, or do you want to find out what the mother's doing first?
Yeah, that might make sense.
All right, well, let's go right to left across the character
on someone else.
All right, so I'll start with Helena.
Okay, what I was thinking is she wants to go for a walk. She's got a where is it? Beacon in the dark move. So she's got to go for a walk. She was going to invite Miss Reeves, just for an extra pair of eyes, and in a meta game sense, we get some cross sort of character interaction that way. But she may not want to. And then after that, I figured at some point we're all going to meet up at the haunted house. But that can be later in the evening or whatever.
So just for clarity, the night phase has a kind of very formal structure. So you,
Okay.
you won't have like an unlimited amount of time to play out scenes. It's more kind of like short and punchy. So yeah, it's good to have that clarity, but I just want to be clear that you may not get to do all of the stuff that you had hoped for in the night phase.
Yep.
But that sounds good. All right. Malik, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think. Oh dear. Yeah, I should just go with that. I think if it's a terrible idea in my head, then it sounds like I should do it, right? I think I want to try to track down the body of Ginny Hess. Is there something like what do you call it? At
Like
the
a
corner
morgue
with
or a
it.
cemetery?
Yeah, like either of those two things. Supposedly so I can find a clue, but I mean, I'm really after a
Yeah.
body count.
Sorry, I'm just trying to remember how long ago Ginny died.
I'm
She
sure
was
you
found
said
dead.
3 months. It was
Yes,
like
it
3 months
says
ago.
definitely it says some months ago. So you can go to the cemetery and try and excavate her body.
Yeah,
Is that what? All right.
exactly. Yeah.
Exhume Ginny. Great, love this. All right.
Yeah, I'm just
Uh,
really helpful.
yeah, that sounds good. And Reeves, you've got a couple of good options on the table there, or perhaps have your own business to attend to.
Yeah. I think I will go for the walk with Helena, see what Malik gets up to by themselves.
Okay, cool. And Jim Fletcher, what about you?
I will say, if Malik will have me, since I'm feeling quite physically fit, I will help exhume the body.
Perfect.
Of
Bring a shovel
course,
from the house.
I'd be happy to have the American along for their muscle.
Nice. So does that mean that you're going to ignore the invitation from Mrs. Beale?
Well, I think because of my untimely condition, my imagination here is that Jim is assuming he can get back to that invitation, but will mess up the time completely.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to introduce the unseen now. This will be the end of the dusk phase and the start of the night phase. So just to explain how this works, the unseen is something that's happening somewhere else in London as you go about your investigation. It's not related to the thread or to the broader story that we're telling. It's more this kind of cinematic thing about fleshing out London as a kind of setting and character in the story. So I'm going to tell you about a scene, and all of you will get a turn to answer a specific question about that scene and what happens there. And we'll intersperse those questions with all of you getting a chance to play out what you're doing in the night. So let's see. Oops. Sorry, bear with me for a sec. So the unseen for today will be Brown's Hotel. None of the 117 rooms at Brown's Hotel on Albemarle Street are the same, although they have each housed some of the most fashionable people you'll find in London or anywhere. A concierge named Teddy Miller delights in spying on the hotel's posh clientele. So let's go left to right again across the character keeper for these questions. So, Jim Fletcher. Teddy puts his ear up against the door of a wealthy young bachelor. What does he hear that makes him desperately want the life of this young bachelor?
I will say that the bachelor is bragging to his other male friends about his series of sexual conquests.
Nice. So let's go into our scenes then. So Helena, you and Reeves are out for a walk. any particular like kind of area that you want to be walking? Are you going to head down?
Yeah,
to
I
a
was
tent,
thinking
or-
in like a star pattern around the building with the ghost is, because I want to do my beacon in the dark move.
Nice. And Reeves, like, how do you feel about being out at night with someone other than your employer? Is this unusual, or does this happen fairly often? Like,
I think it's pretty unusual. Like Reeves is still in their employee mindset and is following like an appropriate space behind Helena that like Malik prefers, and opening the door for Helena, and being very formal and just kind of like awkward about the whole thing.
nice. All right. Well, do you want to roll your beacon in the dark move?
Okay, so I've got sensitivity 2.
So, when you walk the streets of London at night, your consciousness spreading across the city like a vast spiderweb. Roll with sensitivity.
Oh, 11.
11. So on a hit, you are immediately confronted by a threat or a personified danger related to the threat. You may ask them 2 questions from the list below. They will not answer directly, but rather in the form of a clue. And on a 10 plus, the threat or danger departs as soon as the questions are answered. So, Reeves, how do you react when this spirit begins to manifest in the street before you?
I think Reeves is used to, Malik, who can obviously take care of themselves, but chooses not to. And so immediately kind of like steps in front of Helena, and I think she has the like cane with the animal head on it, kind of like uses that ready to like smack whatever the spirit is,
All right.
like just ready to protect Helena.
All right. Well, we'll come back to you, but let's go and find out how Malik and Jim Fletcher are doing in the cemetery. Have you been, Malik? I suspect you've been to the cemetery at night before. This doesn't seem like fresh territory for you.
Yeah, I think I have an intimate relationship or knowledge of all the cemeteries within the Sydenham area.
And how will you find Ginny's grave?
Yeah, and I think I actually know the groundskeepers of the cemeteries. I think I pay them off every time I come by looking for something. And so I think when I come by, I seek them out and I ask for, I think I don't even have to ask, right? They know that I'm looking for fresh graves. They don't ask questions. I just hand over the money. It's just that this time I'm looking for Ginny's in particular, but I think we find it fairly easily. I'm imagining like this person in like a large hat, shadowy eyes, just like points towards where you're supposed to go. You know, this huge shovel next to them, right?
Jim, like, how do you feel about grave robbing?
I mean, I probably wouldn't do it by myself, but we're here to help and solve this ghostly murder. And it sounds like Dr. Al-Kabir was pretty convincing with the need to really look at the corpse to figure out what's happening. So, I'm feeling pretty good tonight. I'm feeling energized and ready to go.
All right. So I think I might get you.
Rather than robbing, I'm just gonna put that out there. So
Yeah, it's grave examination.
Yeah, there you go. Not robbing anything.
All right. So I think that examination, did we decide, is going to count as a risky activity. So I'm going to get you to roll the night move, Dr. El-Kabir. So name what you're afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve.
Ooh, if I lose my nerve. I think I'm afraid I'm going to damage the body in a way that it's going to ruin the evidence, or I won't be able to take a part for my child, basically.
And then I have to tell you how it's worse than you fear. I think that it's worse than you fear because perhaps you're not the only person out looking for body parts in the cemetery tonight. And it would be terribly embarrassing to damage the body like that in front of a... I mean, colleague is probably not quite the word, but you know where I'm going with that. So what ability do you want to roll that with?
Yeah, I'm going to say reason because what I'm trying to do is, and I'm so annoyed that I know this. I'm trying to like figure out like how I can get to the coffin and make sure that the dirt doesn't collapse. You know, like I'm trying to calculate and do it in the fastest way possible.
Great. All right, we'll roll with +2.
I watched a lot of CSI before. Anyway, so I'm gonna roll 6 of the dice if it's okay.
Sure, of course.
Okay. I'm gonna roll using +2. And then, sorry, I rolled 2 6s, so that's a 14.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Nice. What are the demons?
These are the demon dice, yes, your favorite.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, sorry.
That's all right. All right, so we'll come back to the two of you, obviously having some success in your grave examination. But first, who's next on the unseen? So I think that this question is for Joel. Teddy, the concierge, rummages through the personal effects of an actress who's staying at the hotel while she's out. Who's staying at the hotel while she is out. He rummages through her personal effects. What does he find that makes him either desire her or desire to be her?
I think he finds one of those like hand mirrors with the handle, and it's just like very beautifully done, kind of like with her personal little like makeup effects kit. And so there's a moment of him like kind of looking in the mirror, imagining like him having her life, being able to like put on the makeup, put on the clothes. And it's just kind of like him staring at the mirror, imagining like, what if this could be me?
Nice. All right, Reeves, you are standing face to face with some sort of spirit that is congealing, manifesting on the street before you in the dark, in the gaslight. Blake, you on your 10 plus on Beacon in the Dark get to ask 2 questions, which I will answer in the form of a clue.
Now, is this the ghost from the house, or is this a completely different entity?
Well,
Or do I not know?
I guess that all that you know from the move is that you are confronted by a threat or a personified danger related to the threat. So at the moment, the only threat that's in play is the ghost. So I guess it is the ghost.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll say, what do you want with the bills?
All right. And what's your second question?
How do I get you to move on?
Yeah, and
I think I'll hold Reeves' hands and say it's okay. I've talked to spirits before, and because I'm not, I'm excited. I'm not scared, but yeah.
Okay. So I'm just wondering, like, do you read that? So it says that the threat will not answer directly, but in the form of a clue. Do you think that that's one clue for each question, or is that one clue for I guess it's one clue for each question.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, the first thing, it's more like an impression, like it doesn't speak to you, but it reaches out and you have this strong sense, this strong impression in your brain. It's like a sound of someone falling down a staircase. So that's the first of the clues that it replies with, the sound of someone falling down the stairs.
Okay.
Reeves, the second clue, and the sensation that comes upon you suddenly is of hands tightening around your throat. So hands tightening around your throat is a clue. It is also a fact that you must deal with. What do you do?
I think, let's see, I don't have anything great for this. I think Reeves just tries to they have their cane, tries to put it between the hands and dislodge the hands from their throat.
All right. Well, I'm going to call this the night move as well. So, what are you afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve?
She's afraid that she won't be able to protect her employer in this situation.
So you think of Helena as your employer in this moment?
Yeah, I think it's so ingrained that in a fight or flight situation, she no longer thinks of a different person. She just thinks of this is someone she needs to protect. This is her employer.
Well, I have to tell you how it's worse than you fear. And I think that it's worse than you fear because once the ghost has strangled you, it will head for your real employer. It will head for Dr. Alcabir. What
Rough.
What ability do you want to roll on? Maybe composure?
Yeah, I was going to say vitality or composure,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, either of those is fine.
Perfect. That is a 7.
All right. So, we've lost Jamie. So I was just about to cut back to Jamie and Jim Fletcher. Maybe we'll just stick with this scene for a little bit longer. So, on a 7 to 9, you do it or hold steady, but there's a complication or cost. And the keeper describes what it looks like. So, how does Reeves feel as he contends with the spirit? Sorry.
I think Reeves is kind of panicking. They're probably used to fighting off morticians who don't take the bribe from Malik and stuff like that. They're not used to spirits and that sort of thing. So I'm assuming they try and get rid of their hands or get their hands off their neck, and it just kind of passes through them. And so they just start to panic and start scratching at their neck.
All right, so I will come back to you in just a sec. Malik and Jim, you have successfully exposed the body in the coffin. I imagine fairly decayed after some months in the ground. But what do you do?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm having problems with my headphone all of a sudden. But anyway, you're asking what I'm doing with the. I'm trying to use my. I have a particular. Move.
So when you examine a corpse, you may ask the keeper 2 of the following. How did this person die? The keeper will answer with a clue. What would an untrained eye overlook here? And the keeper will answer with a clue. And can I take a body part for the child without anyone noticing?
And how many questions do I get? Just the one? Or is it
2.
Oh, nice. Perfect. I'm going to get the ego stroking question, the second one, what would an untrained eye miss, And then, of course, the second one is, can I take a body part without Lie or anyone else noticing? Yeah.
So I guess my next question then is to the liar, Jim Fletcher. What are you doing while this happens? Are you focused on the coffin? Or...
Yeah, I'm imagining that in my kind of heightened state, I'm trying to figure out how to bring my physical abilities to bear and be useful. So I'm gonna, since this is reasonably decayed, I kind of want to say I jumped down into the grave to see if anything fell out or was otherwise left behind, maybe during the funeral, maybe someone tossed something on the coffin. So I feel like I'm digging through the dirt physically, hoping to use vitality on this investigation.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. So let's see. So I think that so why don't you go ahead and roll the information move with advantage for vitality to see what you can dig up.
Great. So 3 dice. So it's a 6 and a 4, 10 plus 1 is 11.
Oh, nice. So you find a clue. So, Malik, how do you react when you see the liar Jim Fletcher dive into the grave and start like hoiking out the dirt?
I say, well, I suppose they do things a certain way in America that I'm not familiar with. But if it gets the job done, and I'm just like, Miss Reeves wouldn't act like this. But even though I say that, I think at the same time I'm checking out the liar. I'm like, he looks really good while he's doing this, right? Like,
we can slightly retcon that. I like took off the hat, took off the coat.
oh, yeah.
He's like looking a little bit more bulked up than he usually does.
Excellent.
All right. So you do find something, but let's start with the first question that Malik asked. So you asked what the untrained eye would have overlooked that you notice. And what the untrained eye would have overlooked may be easier to spot now that the body is somewhat decayed, but certainly very fine and subtle work. There are stitches on the torso of the corpse, as if something has been not old stitches, not this kind of stitching that you associate with an old surgery or something like that. A very lengthy opening in the body that has been sealed, perhaps shortly before or shortly after their death. How will you open it up, or will you open it up?
Oh yeah, me seeing stitches and being, of course, I'm going to open it up. How can I resist when you ask me that question?
So inside, what do you find? And certainly, you feel the sort of bulges in the abdomen around this object that's been hidden inside the body. And you find just a small wax doll. It's pretty grimy from having been inside a corpse for some time. It smells fairly putrid. But, underneath all that, it's a fairly elegant wax doll like you would give to a child. We'll come back to what liar Jim Fletcher finds underneath, or in the dirt around the coffin, or underneath. But Jamie, I have a question for you about Brown's Hotel. Teddy draws a hot bath for a pair of good-looking young men staying in the same room. Jamie, in what ways does Teddy help bring the erotic subtext of this scene to the fore?
Ooh, I think, and Teddy's like preparing a bath, right?
Yes, for these two young men.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like brings out like a set of, I think, like interesting instruments to assist in the bathing process. Right? So like sets it by the bathtub. It's very clear that this is not just for bathing, but yeah, I think it's no longer subtext at this point.
Nice. So, Reeves, you had rolled a 7 on your night move. Is that right?
Yep.
So that's a success with a complication. And you said that you were panicking as you sort of contended with the spirit. The spirit will fade away. You'll successfully fend it off. It sort of disperses, goes back to wherever it came from. But you're going to just take the condition panicked.
Okay.
Helena, you can see that your companion is pretty distressed by having just been throttled by a ghost. What do you want to do?
Oh yeah, I'll just sort of take her hands and you'll be right. It's all right. They never stay long. It's okay. There's some place I can take you that'll help, and I'll just take her to a massage parlor. One of those ones where you can sort of have a chat while you're both laying on the things and.
Yeah. And I think the whole time Reeves is just like I mean, I'm fine. I'm not, I'm not nervous or anything. I'm perfectly fine jumping at every loud noise there is.
Yeah, and nonsense, darling. You've earned it. It's my treat. Let's go and do this. We've earned it. We've worked hard today.
Is this going to be a vulnerable move, or is this just a bit of role playing?
I suppose it's up to Reese how much she opens up or not. Helena will attempt to open up and be sort of equal and friendly and appreciative, but it's up to Reese as she.
What's Helena's vice?
Opium.
Is opium available at the massage parlor?
Yeah, why not? She'll have one. It's up to Reese. I'm kind of insisting she has a massage, but I'm not insisting she has a thing on the hookah. That's up to her.
Yeah. So, Reeves, you don't need to smoke to engage the vulnerable move. Helena engaging her vice will be enough for that. But okay. Will you indulge?
Yeah. I think, Reeves is kind of having a moment of, I'm being treated? What is this? Alec normally says we don't have time for this sort of thing. And so is just feeling, completely spoiled and, starts off very stiff and, stuffy and, I don't need, too deep of a massage. And then as it starts going, is just, relaxed and, kind of sprawled out, very comfortable.
Nice. All right. So when you have an intimate moment with another hunter, while one of you is engaged in your vice, you can clear an appropriate condition. So each of you, if you wish, can clear a condition here. And Helena, because it's your vice, you can also choose either to stumble on a clue and tell us what it is, or invite the other hunter to ask you about your past.
That's more interesting. If you want to ask me something about my past.
Okay. Yeah, I think Reeves is kind of just completely relaxed. After one of the masseuses leaves for a period of time, she'll ask, you didn't seem as startled about that apparition as other people would have, not mentioning her name at all. Was this your first time doing something like that?
No, I've done it many times, and she'll probably show you. She's got some cut marks on the arm where she's drawn blood in order to facilitate creatures from the other side coming and having a chat. Her eyes sort of flash a bit. You can tell she finds it to be exciting.
What was your first time like then?
Well, yeah, that was on my own. It was an older person from hundreds of years ago. They were lost and confused, but still very determined. I think they were an alcoholic, to be honest. They just wanted grog. But yeah, it was good. I liked it.
I think at that Reeves will just grill you for information. What was their name? How far ago? What kind of drink did they like?
Oh, it was moonshine whiskey 200 years ago, and they were a sailor.
Right. So I'm going to read the last unseen prompt. So Blake, this will be for you. Teddy returns to his dingy, tiny little flat in East London. What do we see in his apartment that shows how he tries to incorporate bits of glamour into his dull, grey life?
Oh, he's stolen stuff from the hotel. There's, candles and soap and small curtains in the kitchen and just lots of little bits and pieces he's stolen over the 20 years he's worked there or whatever. And it's all, way too expensive that he could have afforded. His house is pretty dingy, so it sticks out quite a bit. But none of it's got any theme. It's all mismatched, but he found it interesting. And
nice. Cool. Sorry. Let's see what happens now for the liar, Jim Fletcher, and Malik. So, Jim Fletcher, you find not so much under the coffin as, in fact, concealed within the coffin, as an almost secret compartment within the coffin itself. And what's been hidden there is a ledger. And even the quickest glance through the ledger, you see that it's some sort of accounting book. And it looks like, at first glance, like a pretty standard sort of household expense ledger. But there are some entries for just very strange things. There's an expense. They've paid some money for thought casting. Somebody's paid for a dream whisperer. Somebody has bought pig gifts. Just a few odd little things like that. And that's a clue that you find.
Dream whispering, pig gifts, and something else?
And thought casting.
Okay.
Malik, you almost distracted from your work for a moment by the bulging muscles and frenetic activity of the liar, Jim Fletcher. But you remember why you're really here, or at least part of the reason why you're really here. At this stage, let me just see what your move says. So the question you've asked is, can I take a body part for the child without anyone noticing? The answer is, it's not necessarily. You can try. You can make the night move to see if you can get that body part without Jim noticing, but it's not a given that you'll be able to do that. Are you going to try and rob the grave anyway?
Yeah, I'd like to. So during the night move earlier, I did roll a 12 plus, which means I get an extra benefit or advantage. Could I really here, or is that too much?
That seems very reasonable. Maybe the extra benefit is that something distracts Jim Fletcher. Hopped up on the quickening. Here's someone lurking about the cemetery up above, and if that's all right with you, Gabe, just pops out to look and see what it might have been.
And I would say I actually jump all the way out of the grave in a single bound to go search after this sound I heard.
And then Malik, what do you do after Jim Fletcher vanishes?
Yeah, I think I'm going to grab. I was looking through the guts earlier with the wax doll. I think I'm going to get the guts for my child.
Oh my god! Incredible. I
was going to say hair, but then you mentioned the guts, and it was too.
Yeah. I did not realize that was an option. That is so anatomically disturbing. So when you acquire a body part for the child, check it off from the list and narrate a brief, pleasant memory of the person you lost that is triggered by holding the part in your hands.
Yeah, so I think the memory is that Malik is trying to get ready to go to a lecture. When their lover says, no, you should eat something first. And so I'm associating with the guts what was a pleasant meal that my love cooked for me before I had to go to work. Totally normal, right? Like what normal people think of when they're holding guts and stuff.
Yeah, that's perfect. All right, I think that we might end the night phase here. So the night phase ends with the first scenes after the last unseen prompt. And I think that's a good time. Was there anything anyone was particularly wanting to get through in the night phase that we could wrap up pretty quickly?
Does Jim meet the wife back at the Beals or not? Or
I think we'll find that out tomorrow. We'll find out tomorrow whether he did or not, if that's okay. So yeah, and then look, it's the hour now, so I'm going to go make a coffee. Let's meet back up in 10 minutes, about 10 past. Great. All right. Is everyone good to continue? All right. So we are in the dawn phase. First thing that happens in the dawn phase is that you answer your dawn questions. So these are your XP triggers. Everyone will have a different set on your column in the keeper. 3 of them are going to be the same for everyone, and then there are 2 that you optionally choose.
We didn't have an echo in the night, did we?
No, so we'll talk about that in a sec. You did answer a question. You answered the first question from the threat, but you haven't resolved a threat. You haven't experienced an echo in the night. If anyone has any questions, anything you're not sure about, but I'm happy for you all to just decide whether you satisfied your prompts or not. Once you've done that, this is also the time if you want to change the optional questions, like the ones on the drop-down menu, if you want a different set for the next phase. And yeah, I might just talk about echoes in the night now. So this is one of the things that's always going to be marked as a way to receive XP. So with the unseen that we just went through, all those scenes at the hotel, echoes in the night are when you somehow reincorporate an element or an image or a theme from the unseen into something that happens in the game. Something your character does, something that you say about a paint the scene question, anything like that. So again, you're welcome to judge this. We're not going to police, so that doesn't really seem like an echo to me. If you give it a go, then that'll satisfy it. So anything from those scenes at the hotel, I made some notes on things that might come up again. So we had candles, we had soap, we had stolen items, we had something that is no longer just subtext, we had someone wishing for fame. That's not an exhaustive list, obviously, but those are just some examples of different ways that you could reincorporate that stuff into the game. Let's see. We also now resolve any playbook or custom moves that are resolved during the dawn phase. Does anyone have a move that triggers in the dawn phase? I don't think anyone does, but take a second if you want to check. All right, then that will finish up the dawn phase, which obviously is pretty quick, and we're going to get into the day phase again. So ordinarily in the day phase, I would introduce a new threat if there were less than 3 active threats at the moment, but just because this is a short series and this is our last session, I'm just going to stay focused on the ghost and won't be doing that. So the day phase is essentially just free role play. You might want to head back to the house to do some more investigating. Maybe there are other ways that you want to investigate, but I guess you need to accumulate at least a few more clues before you're going to be ready to actually solve the mystery.
Because the bills are still out of the house, aren't they? We could still go to the house uninterrupted at this point.
I think you asked them to stay away for a few days. So I imagine you have a phone number for them if you do need to talk to them where they're staying. But yeah, otherwise the house is likely to be empty.
I mean, we could go there. I could try and do a ritual to banish the ghost, but it may not work. Or am I not allowed to do that in the day phase?
So mechanically, you're not allowed to do that until 2 things. So one is it does have to be in the night phase that you resolve the threat. And the second is that you have to answer that question before you can perform the action.
Okay.
So yeah.
I think before we go too far, Reeves, you're looking mighty shaken there. You have some trouble last night?
I did, and I completely forgot to remove my condition because we had the massage parlor, and I forgot to clear that. So I'm feeling much better now.
All right then. Oops. I was wondering if you might want to learn a little bit about how to defend yourself against terrors in the night.
Oh, I mean, I'm pretty good at defending myself, and she'll grab her cane and very ineffectively, like swing it around. But I will always take some pointers, to be better at my job.
Well, if you would like to join me, I was going to go practice some shooting.
Sure. I mean, I've never, handled something like a gun. It's a little barbaric, but I'll give it a try.
Perfect. So I'm here angling for the vulnerable move because my vice is shooting things.
So I would love to hear about where you go to shoot things.
Yeah.
Is there somewhere at Hargrave House, or do you have to go to a range? Do you head out to the country? Like, where does this happen?
I'm thinking I'm brash enough that we just go into the garden at Hargrave House and set up some bottles and cans and things.
Pumpkins.
Brash enough or American enough, right?
Yeah.
It's my yard. Why would I go anywhere else?
All right. Well, we'll come back to you, but I'll just check what Dr. Malik is doing. Reeves has gone off somewhere. Who even knows? It's so hard to find good help these days. What is Dr. Al-Kabir doing?
Yeah, I think I'm angling for that other XP trigger, which is to have a conversation with a child while no one else is looking.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just looking to see how that works.
Sure.
For anybody watching, we should probably comment that the child is like a flesh column Frankenstein creature. It's not like a kid.
Which at this point is only guts, I think.
Yeah, literally just contissu intestines at this point.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I have to collect some things, but I kind of like the idea that I had discarded body parts, right, that weren't good enough for the child. So I have like in a secret laboratory where that is. And I do have a jar that has a brain in it.
That's right. That's true.
So I'm just assuming like I have this collection of like could have been but not good enough for the child. And I think I'm in the middle of storing the guts in order to make sure they're good enough.
All right. Well, I'll come back to you in just a sec. But what is Helena doing this morning?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Everyone else is just sort of gallivanting about.
Yeah. I think I'm going to do mundane stuff like grocery shopping for Hargrave House and stuff. And
okay. Cool. Very responsible. All right. So, well, let's start with Dr. Al-Kabir then. So tell us a little bit about your secret laboratory, like what it looks like, what it smells like, and then what you say to the child.
Yeah, I think there's like in one of the I think this place has more than one library room, right? Because it's just that kind of huntery place. And I do think Miss Reeves has access to, and Miss Reeves has access to the secret laboratory, but I'm trying to think of like what to do. It's probably my former lover's favorite book that I have to like pull and then something will open and then I'll be able to get to the secret laboratory on the other side. And I think it's really just enough space for the work that I have to do. It's kind of cramped and it's somewhat dark. And I think in the corner there are like these misshapen pieces underneath like white blankets, attempts that were not good enough. Yeah, the first few attempts to make a child. And I think the place surprisingly smells like there's a strong metallic smell in the air, but there's also like the smell of cigarettes and the smell of incense. And there's this table where I've drawn a diagram of exactly how I remember them. Like, and the measurements are super exact, right? I've gone over my memories again and again. Like, this is how tall he was. This is how wide his shoulders were. And I think, like, in this section, I take out what I found, my prize, and and I thank the person who had them previously. Thank you very much, Jenny, for your contribution to what would be my greatest achievement for love. And I think as I prepare the guts for the child, I just have to. I kind of want to say like it's one of those cinematic moments where the camera moves behind me, and there's a child fully formed in my mind, like sitting at the table talking to me, right?
Yeah.
Even though they're not there yet. And I tell him, you know, you're going to be just as beautiful as he was, and you're going to be just as kind, and you're going to be just as wonderful in every single way. I'll be strong enough for you. I'll do everything I can for you. And I think in my mind, like the child is talking to me, but like the mouth moves and like no one hears it except knowledge, right?
Yeah, nice. Amazing. All
I'm
right.
totally fine. No problems whatsoever.
No problem. All right. So tell us about the shooting in the backyard.
Yeah. So since Reeves said that she has not ever fired a weapon, I'm going to bring out a pair of rifles that are kind of a lighter gauge, little easier to shoot, less kickback. Reeves is a pretty frail looking creature. You know, I will definitely start by showing off a little bit of like kind of what I can do. Because I was in a show before, as we read. But just, you know, Reeves, it's almost like just calm your mind. You just hold the rifle up to your shoulder. You just breathe out real slow, and just look all the way down the sights, and just think about nothing else in the entire world. You just hit that bottle.
Reeves, how do you do with this?
Yeah, I think she like tries to follow along as best she can, and like almost like a clinical way that like Malik would have, you know, like, okay, breathe, like this is normal, focus, clear the mind, and then pretty much does everything, but like you never say pull the trigger, so she just kind of stops and is like, now what?
No, you gotta squeeze the trigger real gentle.
And then like probably does it, and you know, goes off and kind of startles herself a little bit, and then just like perks up a bunch and is like, is it always like that?
So given Reeves' excitement, I'm going to say, look, you see, sometimes you just gotta cut loose, and I'll pull one of my revolvers and just do the thing where I like fire all 6 bullets really fast. It's like reload it. Just cut loose. Don't even worry about what you hit.
Oh god, there's probably like
Don't think.
people off in the distance like getting shot at. Yeah, and Reeves is like a kid in a candy store, just like tries to imitate what you did, can't quite, and just like shoots blindly, probably takes out like a window on one of the upper floors, and you know, like takes a shot of her hip flask brandy, thinking like she's gonna have to clean it afterwards, and to like kind of steady her nerves after all the excitement of shooting the gun. So you do this like all the time?
Well, I mean, you know, every time I need to just relax a little bit, you know, sometimes a lot of loud noise and breaking stuff is good for the mind.
I mean, I don't know if that was relaxing necessarily, but I feel ready to like do some investigating, figure this stuff out. And she's just like kind of like bouncing on her feet.
Well, that did seem like an intimate moment with another hunter, so you can both clear a condition if that's something you need to do. And Jim Fletcher, you can choose either to stumble on a clue or to invite the other hunter to ask you about your past.
Let's go with the question about the past.
What can I say? I think the revolver that you hand Reeves has like something personal on it. Maybe someone's like name engraved in it, or like initials, little heart initials type deal. And she'll just kind of like look at it and then kind of like look at you inquisitively of like, who's this, or what's this about?
Oh man. Well, I didn't get along all too good with my daddy, and one point I just couldn't stay at home anymore, so I left. And on my way out, kind of like we were talking about, I knew I might run into some trouble here and there, and so I wanted to make sure I had something I could take with myself. And I stole my daddy's gun. And what you notice is that the initials are JH, or sorry, they're HF. Are the initials.
Okay. And I think Reeves will just kind of like look the gun over and say like, well, if nothing else, he had good taste in guns.
That he did.
This is a good gun, right?
It does its work.
Okay. And she'll kind of like hand it back to you, holding it like in the complete wrong way, like probably points the barrel at herself and is just like, here.
Yeah. No, actually, it's more like you wanna hold it this way, so nothing happens.
Of course.
So I would like to just frame a scene here where the group arrives back at the house on James Street to do some more investigating. But did anyone have any other plans as far as investigating goes? Like, was there other stuff that you wanted to do?
I was just wondering if there's like a narrative scene where the two guys from the hotel, I sort of bump into them at the markets, and I smile at them and they smile back because they're handsome-looking guys. But they walk past me. The camera follows them because they're door-to-door salesmen. They go to our house, knock on the door. No one answers because they're shooting out the back. The doctor's down in the lab and I'm not there. So they're on and they go somewhere else sort of thing.
Nice. All right. So the four of you arrive back at James Street, probably around lunchtime, early afternoon, I imagine. You have a key for the side. I think you arranged that they would leave the side door open, actually. So you head round the back to the servants' entrance. You notice that the curtains in the neighbouring house sort of rustle as you pass by, as if someone in there has been watching or watching out for you or something like that. But yeah, you head on into the basement, and what will you do once you get there? Helena, you've had some contact with the spirit now. What are you thinking to do now that you're back here?
Because, we got hints that it was like someone fell down the stairs and someone was strangled. Because I can't run the special moves or anything. I suppose we can look around the stairs and see if anything was dropped or there's scratch marks in the wall or something. See if.
You definitely can roll the information move around the stairs, see what you can find there. I'm just going to check in first with everyone about what they're going to be doing, and then I'll come back to you. Jim Fletcher, what are you going to be up to?
I'm going to go across to the neighbor, and I saw those windows rustling. Maybe they've been watching us.
Well, I would like to ask you now, did you visit the house last night?
I didn't. I just completely lost track of time. I had no idea what time it was after all that excitement at the cemetery.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so Jim Fletcher is off to talk to the neighbor. Malik, what are you up to?
I think I showed Miss Reeves the wax doll, and I think I'm trying to find something that's connected to it, like where it was kept or how it was made, like trying to find another clue connected to it.
All right, so you might head up to the nursery, perhaps. It might be whether you'd find a doll or something like that. All right. And Miss Reeves, will you be joining the doctor?
Yeah, and I think as Malik hands the wax doll over to Miss Reeves, just kind of like very smoothly, very like, working comfortably together. Reeves hands the waistcoat over to Malik, and it's like, oh, by the way, you left this. It's been dry cleaned, and then starts looking at the wax doll to try and figure it out. And I think so, Chammy, you can add that back to your what do you call it? Personal
quarters.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unmarked. And I think the way that it's different is like on the inside there's stitching where your heart would be, and it's like very anatomically correct, has like the different ventricles labeled, but one of them is like broken open, and there's like little stitches of like little red drops kind of falling out of that ventricle.
Wow. Nice. All right.
Yeah. And I think Malik will look at it and just like caress it with a hand, but not say anything to Miss Reeves. Just like spend a moment looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. All right. So Helena, you're poking around the stairs. Go ahead and roll the information move. Probably with reason, but happy for you to suggest something else.
Actually, I was going to try sensitivity. I'm just going to sort of calm my breathing and literally sort of hold my hands out and just slowly sort of move up and down the stairs. And
nice. Yeah.
And try not to think of anything.
Sure. Go ahead and roll.
Damn.
Oh, nice.
Sweet.
So I think that what happens is that as you move slowly up the stairs, sort of reaching out with your sixth sense or your intuition, one of the stairs collapses under your foot. Anyone less sensitive than you would probably have taken a nasty tumble there, but you hold it together. You maintain your composure. So the clue that you're getting is a single stair collapses underfoot.
Okay.
I think that as it does, your attention is drawn also to the dining room, which is down on the ground floor. You haven't really had a look around in there. It was kind of briefly passed over in your tour with Mr. Beale the other day. But it occurs to you that that's really the only part of the house that nobody's had a good look at yet.
I'm going to try... Yeah. I'll try sensitivity first, and if I don't sort of get any vibes, then I'll try actually looking with my eyes and stuff.
All right. Well, I'll come back to you in just a sec. So, Jim Fletcher, you head to the neighbour's house. Do you knock, or how do you approach?
Kind of like last time, knock a little too loud and a few too many times.
All right. So an older woman opens the door to you. She's a little bit hunched. She has these kind of peering eyes, and her corset is laced a little too tight. She has streaks of grey in her hair. She says, it's you again.
Howdy, ma'am. And I'll take my hat off. We're here from Hargrave House doing a little bit of investigative work. Wondering if you've seen anything suspicious around this place.
Around here, I mean, it's certainly no business of mine what goes on in my neighbours' houses. And as she says this, it's entirely clear to you that all of her business is what goes on in her neighbours' houses.
I apologize, ma'am. My name is Jim Fletcher. And you are?
My name is Constance Head.
Constance. Well, Mrs.?
Miss Head.
Miss Head. You seem like someone who's been around, knows a few things. I'm clearly not from this part. I'm from the United States, and it's real important. I always make a real effort to talk to folks who really know the area. When I'm looking around, like this one time I met a man and he was 120 years old and he had seen everything. Now I'm not trying to say you're old, ma'am, but I will say that your expertise would be much appreciated, and I would like to persuade her to reveal something using my Telltale's move.
Oh yeah, nice. Sorry, I have again forgotten how this move works.
It's when I tell a ridiculous story, basically.
Yeah, right. And you roll for it?
Yeah, so I roll plus presence. On a hit, they fall for your charm and do as you wish or reveal a clue. On a 10 plus, they won't ask for anything in return. On a 12 plus, they also give you a keepsake.
Oh, nice.
So,
go ahead and roll.
It's 2d6 plus 2. I think I did this right. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
11.
So and you wanted to reveal a clue, is that right?
Yeah. Something that she spied during her time observing her neighbors.
So there is a lengthy discourse on how she doesn't know anything about her neighbor's business. She couldn't possibly help you. She isn't the type to meddle or intrude or anything like that. But eventually it bubbles over. She can't keep it to herself anymore. And she tells you about a night just before that young girl died, when she heard that lovely Mrs. Beale in the little, like I imagine there's a little path between their two houses. Late at night, she was out in that little pathway. She was having some sort of an argument. I couldn't make out what she was saying, but it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't in English. It wasn't any language that I've ever heard. It didn't sound like any language that I've ever heard. And so that's your clue.
All right. And as I leave, I will give her hand a kiss and tip my hat and just thank you very much. That's mighty helpful of you.
She'll laugh a little nervously as if she has not had her hand kissed by a young man in some time. And let's see. Malik and Miss Reeves, you head up towards the nursery. It's decorated in soft pastel colours. There's a crib unused at the moment as the family are away. What do you want to do now that you're here?
I think probably just like Miss Reeves, I think, goes like to the most obvious place and is like, we have a wax doll. Let's check out the other dolls. As like, I'm sure Malik is like behind her thinking like, thinking outside the box, like what's the, hidden meaning here. And Miss Reeves is just starting to like rummage through the dolls and like open up toy chests and like throwing toys out on the floor.
Yeah, and I think Malik says, yes, Miss Reeves, of course we must look through all possible options, even the most obvious ones. But I think what Malik is trying to do is he's convinced whether or not it's true that someone must have been trying to observe the child or sweep away the implements of the dolls. So I'm trying to like look under the floorboards or like along the walls if there's something hidden there.
Nice. Well, let's start with Ms. Reeves rolling the information moves.
Oh, okay. Trying to get near this.
Let's see. So I think, I don't think she's being very like reasonable or composed. Like, if anything, maybe vitality, where she's just like, grabbing chests off like a shelf and like dropping it down and like throwing stuff through it, and is more worrying about like if there's any like clues here. Malik will like spot them as I'm like throwing them at her. So I'm like, does this look like something? And like throws it at Malik and then like grabs another big bundle of toys. So that is a 13.
Oh, nice. So I think that means that you'll get a mastermind clue.
In a nursery.
The nursery contains. Let's see. I don't even have this open. Bear with me for a sec.
Yeah, no worries.
So I think that what you find, Ms. Reeves, is a pair of that amongst the things that you would expect to find in a nursery of this kind of somewhat grasping lower middle class family, all the toys and things like that, all the baby clothes. There's a pair of sapphire blue opera gloves, and it really stands out to you that these are much finer than anything that the Beals could plausibly afford. Someone else must have left these here, or they've acquired them somehow. So this is a mastermind clue. It's not a clue that you can use to answer a question for the mystery today. But you also do find an actual clue type clue. Let's see. You find, as you look around, there's a porcelain vase. And this also seems like slightly out of place. Most of the things in this room are more like specifically childish or childlike. But when you examine the vase, you notice that it is filled with blood, warm and fresh. And that is a mystery clue.
Okay. Yeah.
Malik, do you also want to roll the information move here?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to find the space around the top. But yeah, I think it's reason as I'm trying to make sense of where something would be hidden. That is 4, 4, 8 plus 2, 10.
Oh, nice. So you will find a clue as well. Let me see. So what you find, almost hidden, let's see, maybe even finely, like almost engraved in the dust on the skirting board, is a series of numbers. In such a fine hand, it's hard to imagine a human writing them, but perhaps, you're a doctor, you must have the fine, skilled hands of a surgeon. Someone of your skill could do this, but, pretty exceptional. So I will come back to the two of you, but just want to go back to Helena on the stairs. So Blake, just before we go on, I just wanted to suggest something as an option. You rolled the information move before and you got a 10. Yep. If you wanted to mark the cosmic passage, that would bring you up to a 12 plus. That would mean you get a mastermind clue. But the reason I suggest it is that you would then unlock the Old Bones custom move that you got for your answering a question last time. And that would let you, let's see. That would let you sort of attune to the building's architecture and speak to the ghost.
Yeah, well, I was trying to sense vibes and stuff going from the stairs to the kitchen, so that could be part of that. Yeah, that works.
Yeah. So go ahead and mark the cosmic passage. So that's going to increase your sensitivity and decrease your reason.
Let's try to think how I have to do this. All right. So it is under threat, so do that.
Yeah, so it's right at the bottom.
So I have to roll with sensitivity?
Yes. Oh, nice.
So 12.
So on a hit, the ghost will appear and answer a single question you pose to it or perform a small task of your choice. Any answers it gives can be in the form of a clue. So the ghost again starts to manifest to you as you approach the dining room.
Yep.
What do you ask it, or what do you tell it to do?
I'll say, how can we get you to leave? What task do we have to fulfill for you to leave?
So the ghost is not able to speak to you directly. You probably know in your experience, some ghosts can talk, but others cannot. And so what happens, and the ghost quickly fades as it does happen, is that a book falls conspicuously from the library shelf in the entryway. If you go to examine the book as the ghost vanishes, you'll see it's a kind of, it's something cheap. It's a penny dreadful, I guess. It's a ghoulish novel about a wife who murders her husband.
Oh, okay.
That is, and that's a clue. That is the clue.
I mean, I'll have a general look around the kitchen, but dining room, but I'll sort of paying more attention to the delightful novel.
Nice. So at this point, I might suggest you've got like a good number of clues there. The question about how to get the ghost to pass on to the next world has a difficulty of 6. I think you have 9 clues, so if you can incorporate them all, you'll be rolling that pretty generously. Is this the time where you'd like to come together and talk about how you think you could get the ghost to pass on?
Works for me.
Does anyone have the beginnings of a theory?
Yeah, sorry. I realize I haven't been able to write down. Oh, but the small box spell is here. What is the last clue that I got, Shane?
Oh, that is a great question. What was it? It was a series of strange. I'll put it in if that's easier. A series of tiny numbers. So you have a ton of clues now. You have some spares if you just want to ignore some of them, really.
Yeah, sure.
Who has the start of an idea?
I'm thinking somebody was trying to strangle someone on the stairs, but the stairs is what actually made the person die.
I mean, the question is, how do we resolve the threat or how can we get the ghost to pass on to the next world?
Yeah, so I mean that plausibly includes figuring out why the ghost is, why the ghost is here, what happened that made it, bound to this place, to the clocks.
Yeah, I do have an idea. I think, because I'm looking at a ledger with strange entries: thick dish, dream whisper, thought casting, and a secret coffin compartment, as well as filled with.
Oh, Jemmy, you're frozen. Oh no.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry, we just lost you for a minute there.
Yeah, I'm straining my mobile internet by trying to both go through the clues and be here at the same time. Okay, so from my memory, I think what's going on is our dear lady of the house engages in occult affairs and is paid for her services. But I think what happened is our servant came across this information and was trying to blackmail.
Oh.
Yeah, the lady at the house. And so the lady at the house is like, oh, we're just going to have to take care of you. And so I think the way that we can get the ghost to pass on is if we can bring this to justice, right? To have what she wasn't able to reveal about the lady of the house and at least reveal it to the husband. Is my idea.
Okay, so the theory is that Mrs. Beale was communing with spirits and Ginny knew about it. And so Mrs. Beale like somehow summoned the ghost to kill Ginny.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Or used her magical powers to kill Ginny in some way.
I think she summoned the ghost with the wax doll.
Ooh, and then put it inside. Yeah, that's
Ginny died. She put it inside. She hid the doll inside Ginny, but using the wax doll and she hid the ledger with it, right?
And I'll say, I think if you like take the numbers that were written in dust and like page through the book about a wife murdering her husband, maybe it's like chapter titles, and the ghost that Miss Beale used was like her first husband, maybe, who's like still devoted to her even in death.
Yeah, it's good.
And so like the chapter titles are all like, you know, stuff like I'm always devoted to you, or like, you know, till death do us part, is like all the chapter titles that the numbers lead to.
Oh, so that explains why the baby looks older sometimes, because it looks like that other husband.
Ooh.
Oh wow, that is good.
Yeah.
I like that.
I was thinking we also have the makings of like a strangulation gone wrong, like trying to strangle someone, but maybe they get away, the stair breaks and they fall down the stairs.
Yeah. I thought maybe the ghost was summoned with the vase of blood.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
And so how does the attempted strangulation fit in with summoning the ghost?
Maybe
is it
that's
just
how
that she tried to strangle her first, or
maybe that's how the original ghost died, because we said there's two murders sort of connected, and so that, because we got the hands tightening and the falling down the stairs and the single stair collapsing all kind of found with sensitivity and kind of a communication with the original ghost. So maybe that's the original ghost sharing how they passed on.
Yeah.
Who were the victim of the strangling gone wrong.
All right. So on that, I think that I have you using all of the clues in your theory, but what specifically does that mean that you need to do to get the ghost to pass on to the next world? Or it might even be at this point ghosts, because it sounds like we might be describing several ghosts.
Yeah. My original idea was to bring to light what Jenny was trying to say, but maybe what we're trying to do is break her hold in all of these ghosts, right? Like, she must have something.
Do we need to get Mrs. Beale to confess?
Yeah, like get her to confess and release the hold that she has on, like, Jenny, her late husband, the first ghost who was like a strangle victim. Like maybe Miss Beale like still has them all locked up somewhere.
Perhaps by destroying the clocks throughout the house where the spirits are trapped.
Oh, that she's used the clocks as focuses in some way.
Okay.
Is it both of those things? Is it that she must confess and you have to destroy the clocks, or is it just one of those things?
For metagamey purposes, I'm leaning towards just one.
Yeah. For metagaming purposes, I'm leaning towards both, because that gives you all something to do during the scene.
Oh, that's true.
I kind of think we could.
Idea that if it's dramatic, it has to be timed at the same time, right? So that we can break through.
Yeah,
right?
like maybe the vase of blood, pour that on the clocks, then light the clocks up.
All right. Well, that sounds like a theory to me. Who wants to roll 2d6 plus 4 to see if your theory is correct?
I'll do it if no one else wants to.
Go for it.
So 2d6 plus 4, did you say?
Yeah.
Right.
Anything but snake eyes, you're going to be more or less right. Hey, 13. What do you get on a 13? I bet it's good. On a 12 plus, the mastermind will reveal themselves while the hunters are pursuing the opportunity. How interesting. All right. Well, look, your theory is right. That's going to end the day phase. let's take our second break, and we'll come back just about 6 minutes past the hour and head straight into the dusk phase and then a night phase to hopefully resolve the threat. All right, fantastic. See you soon. All right, we are all back. Is everyone good to continue? All right, it is the dusk phase again. So the first thing that we do is resolve any playbook moves that go off during the dusk phase. So I know that several of you have these. Let's start with the quickening.
Excellent. Just 2d6. An 8. I think that means I'm exhausted or something.
Let's see. On a 7 to 9.
Keep it in check just barely. You know what? I'm just going to use a mask.
What mask do you want to put on?
I will put on... where is it? The Mask of the Past. So narrate a flashback to your youth, showing what an arrogant, willful brat you were. Yeah, I'll need a second for that.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll come back to you. Reeves, do you want to use your dusk phase move?
Yeah. So I have the Ghost of Hargrave House. Does anyone have a checked item in their personal quarters?
Yeah, I've got a collection of amulets and protections of various religions and stuff.
Perfect. I think, yeah, I come across that, and I think, like, Reeves has just kind of figured out by now anything like remotely occult or, unexplainable like that is just Helena stuff. So she just kind of like tists a bit and mumbles under her breath, like, I'm always cleaning up after people. And then kind of like thinks to herself, like, maybe if she gives it back to Helena, she'll treat her to another massage. So she just kind of like pockets it to like bribe her with later and doesn't realize that what's changed about it. I think all of the amulets on necklaces and stuff have changed. Like the chains are changed, and she probably thinks nothing of it, but there's like occult significance that it is a like gold chain on a silver amulet with like this deity of protection, or it's like twine interwoven with like some type of herb from like a certain area that kind of affects the protection amulet in some way.
Nice. Were those the only moves that go off in the dusk phase? Yeah. All right. So I'm going to ask you a paint the scenes question about Hargrave House. And I think that this time we're going to be in the reception hall. So you're all quite keen to get back to do what you need to do to end this threat, to deal with the ghost. So you've barely set foot inside to organize things. You're in the reception hall. I'm going to ask each of you whether you feel unsettled or at home when you enter Hargrave House. And also, what do you perceive in the reception hall that reinforces this feeling? And sorry, before we do that, let's finish off Jim Fletcher's mask.
So I will return to the stables a little bit older than my first riding experience that we saw last time. And I'm maybe about 10 or 11 years old. And kind of going down the row of horses and just saying no to every single one, because none of them are all black. Like they each have like something that's not quite black. And so then I like throw a temper tantrum telling my father who that he needs to buy another horse because I need one that's all black.
Nice. All right. So again, then the question is: do you feel settled, or do you feel unsettled or at home when you enter Hargrave House? And what do you perceive in the reception hall that reinforces this feeling? So, Jim Fletcher, would love for you to go first.
Sure, I will say I feel at home because there is a perfect pair of hooks where I can hang my long coat and my hat right when I come in. They're
Nice.
just right, and no one else uses them.
Miss Reeves, what about you?
Miss Reeves feels at home. She's like cleaned up the place and kind of like been through the house enough times that she knows all the nooks and crannies. And I think there's like a bar cart in the reception hall for like, casual cocktails for people to have. But she knows like behind it, kind of tucked away, there's like the good stuff.
Nice. Malik.
Yeah, I think Malik also feels, I think, mostly at home. I'm sure what I'm going to describe sounds unsettling, because Malik can tell that the house is built with intentions for what it would soon house in the future. And there's a secret code that's written all across the wallpaper. Like, it just looks like numbers in filigree, but if you look closer, there are all these like numbers and calculations and formula. And Malik is like close to decoding what it is, but it feels like it's related to every hunter that like comes and goes in the house. And so Malik feels comforted that someone had a grand plan of some kind.
Sorry, there's a large truck like doing road work outside my house. I'm not sure if you can hear that, and I'm just going to mute myself so that it's a little quieter. But sorry, Helena, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it feels like home. There's like a small portrait of like her father and his mother sort of a bit further down the hallway, and whether you don't know whether they were the sort of the owners or servants or what, but yeah, she's been here most of her life, so.
I realized. I should have known that I would do that immediately after muting myself. The next part of the dusk phase is that you all say what your hunter will be doing during the upcoming night phase. So we've established a couple of things that need to be done to resolve the threat. One is to extract a confession from Mrs. Beale, and the other is to destroy the clocks in the house. I am inclined to suggest there are 3 clocks in the house, one in the entryway, one in the basement, and one in the attic. And so let's, again, start with Jim Fletcher. What do you plan to do during the night phase?
I will be ready to coerce a confession out of Mrs. Beale, either by persuasion or something stronger if necessary.
Deception.
So you've called her back to the house, said, I'm sorry, I missed you last night, but let's make it tonight instead. Is that what you're thinking?
I think I'll send a note by courier, or maybe by Reeves, to say that we're very close and we need you for some specialized information.
All right. So that leaves 3 clocks that must be dealt with. I don't want to preempt what people might decide they want to do. But Reeves, what about you?
I think the clock in the basement is in the servants' quarters. So I think Reeves is I'll take care of this one. It just kind of feels at home handling that one.
Okay. Malik, Dr. Al-Kabir, what about you?
Yeah, there's one in the attic, in the basement, and one in
the entryway.
Yeah, I'll take the entryway one.
And sorry, that doesn't leave so many options for Helena. Is she going to be happy to take the one in the attic? Is there anything else she'd like to do?
Well, she was going to suggest we use the blood in the vase on each of the clocks. And she's actually got a rites of smoke and salt move that I thought I can kind of banish the ghost with that as well. But I can incorporate sort of burning the clocks into that.
Okay, cool. Oh wow, that's cool. Yeah, okay. So, let me just check what else happens in the dusk phase, but I think I just need to introduce the unseen. Yes, the keeper introduces the unseen. So, our second unseen that will take us through the night phase is called the dinner party. Eric Taylor has a good job as a clerk, and with his wife Abigail, they form the very picture of the respectable new Victorian middle class. Behind the lace curtains of their terrace home, they are throwing a small dinner party for equally respectable friends, the Davenports. The Taylor's daughter Maud plays piano, passably in the parlour, before dinner is served. So I think I'll go the other way this time for the prompts. So I'll start with Helena or Blake. As the Taylors and the Davenports enter the dining room, what do we see that shows the Taylors have made their best efforts to impress? And how do we know the Davenports are a rung above them in terms of wealth and prestige?
I think they've got like doilies under the candlesticks and the crockery and stuff, which they don't normally have. And there's a little bit of dust on them because they've been sitting in the cupboard for special occasions. I think the Davenports will they're holding hands as they're going through the hallway, and they kind of give each other a hand squeeze and sort of look at something that they're both saying, this isn't very good, is it? They're kind of doing that coupled, unspoken, slinking off at other things.
All right, nice. So, from what I understand, the first phase in this plan before Mrs. Beale arrives is to collect that blood from the vase from the nursery upstairs, and then decant it into some vessels so it can be used as part of this ritual to destroy the clocks. So, can I assume that all four of you head up to the attic?
I thought we were going to burn them in the basement because it makes more sense to have a fire there, and not because we don't want to burn the house down. We just want to set the clocks on fire.
All right, so you're just going to head upstairs first to collect the blood and then take it down into the basement? That works nicely. So, I think I would like to see you rolling some dice. I think that collecting the mysterious magical blood vase from the haunted house in the middle of the night is something risky. So, Helena, can I get you to roll the night move here?
Yep.
So, starting by just naming what you're afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve.
Because I'm dealing with the blood, I might spill get some on me, and then I'm an open door. The ghost possesses me.
Well, I have to tell you how it's worse than you fear, and I think it is basically what you've said is right. If the blood is spilt, then where it's spilt will become potentially an open vector for the ghost. But that will also include the house itself. If you spill that blood on the house, the ghost may be able to possess the actual architecture around you, and that could have dire consequences. Okay. So go ahead and roll. Maybe
so
composure, or
with?
Tell me what.
Okay. Well, her reason's gone down and her sensitivity's gone up. So she's all about, she wants something supernatural to happen. She's loving this stuff. So she's clearing her mind and opening her, she's wanting to get vibes. She's hoping she'll get some good vibes to direct her on what to do and when to do it and stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess it's sensitivity +3. 10. Okay.
Oh, nice. So on a 10, you do what you intended, or you hold steady. Describe what it looks like. So yeah, tell us what we see.
So she'll go up and grab, she'll take a couple of deep breaths, and then she'll grab the vase and the clock. She's got one in each hand, and just slowly go down the steps, making sure to pause at the dodgy step just to see if there's any change in like the clock or the blood, and then head down to the basement.
And so the rest of you watch Helena carefully carrying this filled to the brim with blood vase down the steps, taking great care not to spill any. Is there anything that any of you are doing while Helena takes care of this? Who's going to go get the clock? Well, Dr. El Kabir, you were going to get the clock from the entryway, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I don't think you need to roll for that. Well, actually, maybe you do. The ghost is probably a bit worked up about what might be going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve here?
If I'm unable to, I think what I'm worried about is that the ghost is going to make it difficult for me to get back in time to everybody else.
Right.
In time for the ritual.
And I will tell you how it's worse than you fear. The ghost we've learned has some strange abilities or strange effects on the passage of time. So if you were to fail here, it wouldn't just be that you would be late, you would be lost in time somehow, disconnected from the flow of time. Go ahead and roll with whatever ability you think is appropriate. Maybe composure?
Yeah, I think composure makes sense. If I'm not mistaken, I think my composure 0. I think everything is 0 except...
Well, let me... Composure is 1, actually.
Oh, it is? Good job.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is a 4 plus 5 plus 1. I can do math. That's 10, yes.
Oh, nice. Everyone's rolling so well.
I was looking forward to using a math. But it's okay, I'm not going to...
All right. So you definitely have this frightening, unnerving sense that the ghost is close by, that it's observing what you're doing. But you get that clock down to the basement. So let's take our second unseen prompt. And this one will be for you as well, Jamie. Mrs. Taylor and Mrs. Davenport hate one another. How do they subtly lash out over the course of dinner without drawing attention or causing a scene?
And it's like the one who's holding the dinner are the Taylors, right?
Great question. Yes.
Yeah. I think like Mrs. Davenport is trying to like she understands like this meal has to be served at this certain time, and she's trying to mess up the time somehow, right? Sort of like how I'm purposely echoing the time of the ghost and the time of the dinner party. So like making sure that when the steak comes out, it's a little too on the edge of coldness. It's not as great as it could have been if it came out at exactly the right time, and all these other things. And Mrs. Taylor, on the other hand, is subtly lashing out by talking about the new servant that the Davenport has. Just over and over. Oh, she's rather pretty, isn't she? Quite young looking, so much like Mrs. Davenport herself, minus a few years. Like just going on and on, over and over. So that's happening between the two throughout dinner.
Nice. So, Ms. Reeves, when you arrived at the house, you headed down into the basement. What did you find there? What was different than you remember from when you were here during the day?
I think before, I think we had kind of established there were like little porcelain figurines and stuff on the shelving. I think this time all of the leftover porcelain figurines and little tchotchkes and stuff with faces have their mouths have been scraped off and cut off, or maybe coal from the fireplace has been smudged over their lips and stuff, kind of silencing all of the dolls in the room.
That is awesome. And how does Reeves feel when she notices that?
Very unnerved. She's probably thinking like, "Where's Helena?" She deals with this stuff and just like takes a few of the dolls and puts them face down, so that way she doesn't have to look at them as she comes across them.
So you use the night move as well when you face something you fear. Do you think this like reaches the level of needing to roll that, or are you holding it together for now?
Let's roll it. I think it
Okay.
reaches that level.
All right. What are you afraid will happen if you lose your nerve?
I think like she doesn't have a ton of experience with like ghosts and stuff, so she's just basing it off of like the Penny Dreadful books that she's read and like any of the horror stories that she's been able to piece together from Helena. So she's thinking like the ghosts are going to like silence her the way the dolls have been silenced. So like her mouth is going to be, cut off or, scratched over.
Yeah, I mean, I have to tell you how it's worse than you fear. Certainly, you're right that the ghost will silence you, that you'll be unable to speak. But then you'll just helplessly watch as the ghost speaks through your mouth and lures Dr. El-Kabir to his doom. Go ahead and roll, I would think, with composure.
I think composure makes sense, yeah. That is a 1. That is
nice.
a 12.
On a 12 plus, you do what you intended or you hold steady, and I will tell you some extra benefit or advantage you receive. There's nothing that immediately springs to mind. Is there an advantage or benefit that you'd like in this moment, or I can come up with something?
So let's see. My whole goal is to get the clock out. Thank you. I think the advantage is I am drawing blanks if you have something.
No, that's right. We'll come.
Maybe you think if you be quiet, the ghost won't target you. He won't see you as a threat.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. All right. We'll come back to you in any case. So, okay. Jim Fletcher, as your companions gather in the basement with their clocks, it comes time. There's a knocking at the side door, and you assume that that's Mrs. Beale come to meet you. What do you do?
So beforehand, to kind of prepare like the study or kind of whatever the right part of the house is, I'm going to like look around for some drinks, and not finding any whiskey that's suitable. I'm going to pour a couple glasses of port from their slightly better stock. And I'm going to help myself to one of Mr. Beale's cigars. And then I will answer the door.
All right. So you recognize Mrs. Beale. She is much more finely made up and more finely dressed than she was when you saw her here during the day. She says, I was so sad when I didn't see you last night, but I'm glad that we finally get to spend some time together.
Indeed. I apologize for last night. I was having a bit of an issue with time. Things were kind of coming and going unexpectedly, but that seems to be all sorted out now.
Well, time does pass a little strangely in here sometimes. And she pushes past you into the house, so she brushes quite closely against you and reaches for your hand to lead you up the stairs as she comes inside.
I will accept that offer.
All right. So she leads you up to the master bedroom. It takes you in towards the bed. What about the master bedroom unnerves you?
Given the context, I'm going to say that I'm feeling watched by the portrait of her parents.
Amazing. And she will go and sit down on the bed, and she will ask you if you want to join her.
So I'm going to slide next to her, and as I do that, I'm actually going to pull out my fake ID, And I will say that my fake ID indicates that I'm a contractor for Scotland Yard. And I'm going to kind of put my very large arm over her shoulder as I hold the ID in front of her as I'm sitting next to her on the bed and say, now, Mrs. Beale, unfortunately, we have uncovered some inappropriate behavior on your part, and I'm going to need you to come with me and meet the rest of my companions. Now, I don't want you to fight. I don't want you to struggle. And I want to let you know that there was a time before I came to London here, back when I was in the States, by myself, I wrestled a bear with one hand, and so you stand no chance, miss. So please do not fight. And so I'd like to use my move with advantage from the fake ID.
Yeah, that's great. Well, go ahead and roll.
So I got 3d6, but take the dust 2. That's only 2d6. Still a 10.
That's already a 10.
Yeah.
Do you want to just take it?
I'll just take it.
All right. So, on a hit, they'll do as you wish. Okay. So she will.
I'm gonna escort her down to the cellar where my companions are.
Yeah. So I think as she comes to her feet, she will. She'll be acting terribly innocent. Inappropriate. I can't imagine what you could mean. And she slyly unbuttons the top button of her shirt as she steps on down the stairs with you. Let's have our third unseen prompt here. So this will be for Ms. Reeves. Maud and the Davenport son Alexander both chafe under the expectations of their parents. As the meal draws to a close, how do we see this expressed in their conversation or in petty acts of rebellion?
I think because Maud was the one that was playing music while the Davenports came in, I think like when she's asked to play more music, she starts to play like contemporary upbeat stuff that is just like so inappropriate. And kind of shares like conspiratory smirks with the Davenport son as she's chastised by her parents for embarrassing them, and the Davenport son I think will, like, for the dessert phase, probably excuses himself to go to the bathroom and like sneaks off to one of the decanters or bar carts that they have and like swipes some booze into his drinking glass without them noticing. Probably shares some with Maud too.
Nice. So the four of you and Mrs. Beale are now in the basement together. There's a feeling of expectation in the air, maybe something more than that, a kind of power, a presence. Jim Fletcher, what do you say to Mrs. Beale? She looks at you quizzically as you lead her in.
Yeah. So kind of enter this scene with the clocks and a vase of blood and all sorts of other things, right? And now, Mrs. Beale, we've uncovered a number of things. We know about your ledgers and your spiritualism, and well, you've just been engaged in some dangerous things, and we think that you are responsible for controlling these ghosts.
I think she looks around as you say this, and she says, "4 of you? Well, I wonder if we can't come to some sort of arrangement."
Well, that's kind of admission of guilt, so is
Nah.
that enough?
That's not close enough, I think.
I'm going to kind of look nervously to my more spiritually inclined companions be like, help?
And I think Malik will step forward and say, Mrs. Dio, I have to say, I do admire your tenacity and your skill. This is not something that you could have done easily, and it must have taken many years of study, many attempts. What did you say?
Yeah. Well, I think this is all quite preposterous. The very idea that I might summon or control ghosts, and if I did, if I were so powerful an occultist that I could summon a spirit to kill a human being, then the four of you would be in terrible danger right now, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely, Mrs. Dio. And I say as I come closer, you would be in the utmost terrible danger if we didn't have someone similar on our side. And I think the camera moves to like look upon Helena, right? And I think I'm trying to bluff, right? I'm trying to say, my dear, us as a Hargrave house, we are humans before anything else. Most of us, at any rate. And so I would like to assure you that if you do your part to undo your spells, we'll let you go. But if not, I'm afraid we'll have to resort to other means. But I'm definitely trying to like intimidate her into like.
Well, do you want to roll the night move to see if you succeed?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think this is a really real thing. So,
Yeah.
and I think that's a equivalent of the charm presence, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
those arrows, right? Yeah.
Well, we'll say first of all what you're afraid will happen if you fail.
Quick
I'm
question.
afraid. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Can this? I know there's no like help move, but could I mark something from my personal quarters so that Jamie gets advantage?
Yeah, I don't see why not. What are you thinking of marking?
So I'm going to use the 6-shooter that I've promised to never fire, and just kind of poke it into Mrs. Beale's ribs as if I'm going to shoot her to add to the threat.
Yeah, I buy that. Go ahead and roll with advantage, Doctor.
Nice. Okay, so that's a 3 dice plus 0. Sorry. Anyway, thankfully, because the other one was a 1, so I feel like I got 3rd dice. It's a 5 and a 6. Yeah, 9? Nope, I can't do math. 11. Right.
11. So on a 10 plus, you do what you intended or you hold steady. So she does confess. Tell us what it looks like.
I think there's a moment where she looks almost relieved, right? Because she's had to play the part of the mother, of the wife, right? And keeping all of this. I can't imagine what could have driven her to become this occultist, right? I don't think it was anything like a normal person with a normal life wouldn't seek out something like that. So I think she looks relieved to tell us what happens. I think she kind of like collapses a little bit, and Malik in a natural kind of like warmth, like very delicately Victorian time. I'm not holding her, just touching her elbow, which is already kind of scandalous, right? But anyway, I'm holding her by the elbow, and I say, I promise that you'll feel better after you tell the truth.
So, and she does. She breaks down. She confesses. Helena, at this point, you feel the spirit's close at hand as the ritual, reaches the point where it can happen. You sense that there are several spirits here that are ready to pass on from this world, that have been waiting for this moment. But you also sense that there is a spirit here that does not want to leave this world. And Miss Reeves, you, as the servant, a little more, observant of things like this. The kitchen knives in the servants' quarters downstairs in the basement with you all are starting to rattle on the wall, just very subtly and slightly.
Sweet.
We'll go to our last unseen prompt before we wrap this up. So this is for Gabe. Mr. Davenport and Mr. Taylor withdraw into Taylor's study for port and cigars. Alone, how do they expose the vices they hide from society to one another?
I will say that Mr. Taylor, the host, shows off to his friend Mr. Davenport. He shows off a collection of photographs, and photographs would be brand new at this time or relatively new, and they are photographs of sort of famous corpses, so murders that have been highlighted in the Penny Dreadfuls, and he has amassed, or is beginning to amass, a collection of these lurid photographs.
Nice. All right, Ms. Reeves. Sharp, sharp kitchen knives are flying through the air towards Helena. What do you do?
I think since it is Helena that they're going towards, and I think I still have that advantage from before. I think her like amulets that she had found in Hargrave House kind of like are almost like warm to the touch in her hand, and she just kind of instinctively like picks them up and gets in the way of the knives and Helena and kind of like holds the protective amulets and pendants out, and they kind of like flare to life.
Well, that definitely sounds like something risky. So what are you afraid will happen if it doesn't work?
That these are just a bunch of necklaces and I get skewered by a bunch of knives.
It's worse than you fear. I guess that if the first of the knives hit you, you'll fall, and the second of the knives will skewer Helena anyway. Okay. Go ahead and roll. I think sensitivity or composure or vitality all make sense here, depending on what you feel.
Okay. Even though it's a 0, I feel like sensitivity makes the most sense, but I will check that protective amulet.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Nice.
Nice. So that is an 11.
11. So you do what you intended or hold steady? Describe what it looks like.
I think like Reeves doesn't really do much. It's more like she holds out the pendants and the chains and like twine and stuff that's been swapped out almost start to like burn to the touch as they're kind of just, I don't know, flying everywhere and not touching the knives, but like deflecting the knives almost as they get close to her. And she's just kind of like eyes sealed shut, just terrified, just holding this like bundle of necklaces and pendants out in front of her.
Helena, you realize that if you don't complete this ritual soon, the ghost is going to get more and more violent and dangerous. Do you want to use your rite of salt and smoke?
Yep, might as well. That's sensitivity.
Roll with sensitivity.
Eight. Okay. So.
So you can.
So choose your effect and complication.
Yeah.
We'll banish the spirit. So. The husband or the father or whatever in this case, the ghost has been brought from the other place. Complication. Probably. I'll take a condition.
All right. Well, so do you want to describe the ritual a little bit? Like, what do you actually do?
So I was thinking there's like a pentagon, and we put the 3 clocks at 3 of the points, and my feet are at the other 2, and there's sort of blood leading between each, and we light up the clocks at the same time. And I'm, spitting out Latin or something to till this goes to bugger off, basically. You are no longer welcome here. This is our house. You've been relinquished, and you're free to go on to the other realms.
All right. So all of you... Sorry, go on.
I thought maybe I've left myself too open, and then one of the other spirits goes in me for later on or something.
Well, no, I think that I know what the condition will be. So the magic takes effect. All of you feel the passage, that the spirits are leaving this place. Mrs. Beale looks up in some surprise. She didn't expect that anything like this was possible either. She maybe thought that her spirits were going to bail her out, and now it's too late. But as they leave, before it was just the knives on the rack trembling and then flying through the air. Now the whole house is shaking, quaking, starting to fall apart. And the condition that Helena will take is concussion, as a huge chunk of masonry falls on her head. And the four of you realize that the house is coming down now. It's crashing and collapsing all around you. And you must flee, or you'll be crushed. What do you do?
I'm going to pick up Ms. Henbury and escort her to safety.
I was about to say, I tell Mr. Reeves to do it. Like Wallach walks over like he's going to do it and tell Mr. Reeves to do it. But yeah, I think I'm going to actually grab Mrs. Beale and make sure that she comes with us, and the house doesn't lash out at her.
All right. Well, I won't get everyone to roll for it, but maybe since Malik is going to try and get Mrs. Beale out as well, I'll get you to make a night move to cover everyone's attempts to get out safely. So, what are you afraid will happen if you fail?
I'm afraid that the house is going to claim at least one of us, right? Like in anger, if it's not going to be Mrs. Beale, it's going to be any one of us. And I think I'm going to, I can't do it right now, but I'll mark it later. I'm going to mark the criminal brain in a jar that I have. And I'm going to reveal that I studied what that criminal did for several years, because I was thinking, like, is this brain going to be good enough for my child? And I'm going to say that he was a famous magician known as an escape artist, right? But he would kill his fans, right? He would come and approach him, and then, so. But wow. I know how to escape because of it.
Well, it's worse than you fear. If you fail, if you fall off the stairs, then none of your companions will be able to get out either, and you'll all be killed here.
Yeah.
So no pressure, but just go ahead and roll, I think, with vitality with advantage.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So vitality, oh, this is when I roll badly. It's got one more than a two, so I'm going to mark. I'm not to bring it up.
What mask will you mark?
Oh shoot, it's not. Let me see. I'm going to look at someone else's. I want to.
If you want to do the mask, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, if you want to do the Mask of the Past, the next one is to narrate a flashback to the first time you experienced love for the person you lost. Or did we do that one?
I did the first one.
Yeah, so the next one. Yeah, so that's the next one.
Okay, cool. I'll do that one. And right. I think what it looks like, as it looks like I'm about to fail, as it looks like the house is going to collapse around us. I see in the distance a silhouette of someone who looks so much like my love, and it flashbacks to a moment when I'm sorry, what is the prompt again? When I first fell in love with him?
The first time you experienced love for the person you lost.
Yeah, I think I flash back to him standing in the doorway while I'm teaching a class, right? And I think he's another professor. And up to that point, we had just been colleagues, we had just been friends, and there's a moment when he looks at me and smiles. I think that's when Malik realizes that he's been in love this whole time and he didn't know it because he was too busy just focusing on his work. And Malik struggling to continue to teach the rest of the class unflustered. But I think later when he admitted his love, when he fell in love with him, that's when you hear him say, "I will always be there at the doorway to lead you out." And that's when you flash back to this moment. And Malik knows, like, I just have to follow that silhouette. This is him helping me.
Nice. So all of you get outside just barely before the house comes crashing down. Out on the street, a finely dressed servant is standing. Miss Reeves, you probably noticed that her servant's uniform is slightly nicer than yours, and it's lined with a kind of sapphire blue trim that matches the pair of opera gloves you found upstairs. And she very quietly and discreetly hands each of you an envelope with your name on it, addressed to you personally, unflustered by the fact that a building has collapsed immediately behind you. And then she just turns to leave. And when you get to open your envelopes, you'll find that each of you has been invited to a ball at Braithwaite Hall 3 nights hence by Theodora Braithwaite. And that's where we're going to finish our game. But if we were to continue, then I would very much be looking forward to your attendance at that ball. But yeah, that's about time. So I would love to do a quick round of, certainly stars. If you have a wish that you want to express, then bring it on as well. But let's just go, right to left across the character keeper with at least a star and a wish if you want. So Blake, do you want to go first?
You didn't want epilogues, or?
Oh yeah, let's do epilogues. That's a great idea. Let's do a round of epilogues first. I
had an idea for a scene with the Americans, so they can modify any of this. I thought maybe Helena takes the American to the massage parlor as well, and they get the hookah there. She's sort of thanking him for getting her safely out of the house and that, and it's been good having him around. If it's cool with Gabe, she'll go to kiss him, and he starts to change, and then she quickly sort of drawing a pattern of a ritual on her hand while he's changing, and as he goes towards her, credits.
I like it.
Nice. Malik Al-Kabir, what is your epilogue?
Yeah, I think my epilogue is, I kind of like the idea of Mrs. Reeves and Malik in a cemetery, or like, oh no, we're breaking into a morgue. I think that's what's happening in order to get. And there's a part where if Mrs. Reeves is okay with this, and I'll say, like, hurry along now, Mrs. Reeves. You only have so much time before the coroner gets back. And we must get away with our prizes as soon as possible.
Nice. Ms. Reeves, an epilogue for you?
I think it is later that same night, pretty much. Like after we're back from the morgue, like the camera kind of like does that like initial scene, kind of maybe cuts to some credits, goes back to that scene. And we've obviously like been through a lot. Like there's some scuffs, there's some dirt, but we have like a body part that is just perfect for the child. And it just shows Malik's back as they're working, and Miss Reeves is just being very like dutiful and pretty much like devoted to Dr. Malik, and is like handing him tools before he even asks for them and stuff, and is just talking about how like, it's such a perfect we'll say heart that you picked out for the child. It'll be excellent. You did such a good job retrieving it. And then there's a flashback where like Miss Reeves did all the work. Like Malik was kind of just bumbling away, and Miss Reeves was the equivalent of like a Mission Impossible like spy infiltration thing, like rolling around, tumbling, breaking open the door, picking locks, all this stuff. And then it flashes back to the workroom, and Reeves is just, talking about how it was flawless how you got it, like you've really picked a good one, and it's just like handing tools to Malik.
Yeah, and I think Malik agrees, and but as they brush their wrist against their brow, I think there's a moment where the waistcoat opens up a bit, and we see that stitched heart, right? So there's a cut between the heart in his hands and the heart that's stitched onto the waistcoat.
Perfect.
Oh. And Jim Fletcher, what's your epilogue?
Quite late at night, Jim Fletcher is sneaking out of Hargrave House and taking a horse out towards the country, and we just get the briefest flash of his eyes turning feral and fangs growing from his mouth and kind of thick, coarse, bare fur running up and down his arms.
Nice. All right, so let's go through now for that star/wishes round, and we'll just go back left to right since we're here. So, Gabe, do you want to go first?
Sure. It was a blast. I think just how easy it is to pick up. Like every piece of it, like every dawn question, every move is just all character work, right? Like every Janus mask prompt, it's just instantly character. And after, 2 not super long sessions, I feel like I have so much about Jim Fletcher, but also the rest of the characters. And I want more. It was great.
Awesome. Joel?
Yeah, I mean, stars, kind of like you had said, Gabe, where everything about this just helps you build your character and kind of flesh out their backstory and stuff. And everyone took those prompts and just kind of ran with it, made really interesting and unique characters that we all worked together, but we all had our own things going on. And I thought everyone did it great. It was a ton of fun being in vulnerable moves with everyone, especially since the factotum can't pursue that themselves. So that was a ton of fun. And just a great story with the freewheeling BS that we somehow came up with. Shane, you were able to weave that into a coherent story, which was very entertaining to see happen. And I just thought it was a great little 2-shot that's kind of a prologue to you could easily see a bigger story in this world taking place. This was the little teaser comic book they put out before a big movie or something.
Thanks. Jemmy?
Yeah, I had so much fun. I think big star to Shane going oh no, I brought up Beth, and now Alex wants to pick up Beth. But I love seeing everybody's characters in play, and I really wish that there could be more, but I understand it's difficult to get more sessions. But I really love these characters. I really love playing Malik. It was so much fun. So, but yeah, I think it's really, really great fun.
And Blake?
Yeah, stars to everyone. They kind of played the tropes they were given with the characters, but also individualized it, made it their own thing as well. So that was all good. And stars to the kind of the system, the style and tone is baked into every move. So it's just really well crafted. Definitely happy to play this again. And yeah, thank you, Shane, for giving us the opportunity to do this. It's been good.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I mean, thanks to all of you. I was excited to give this a run, and I'm glad that I did. And yeah, definitely hope to run it at greater length at some point. My specific star, both system-wise and in terms of the actual play at the table, has to be the Tall Tales move. Anytime that was coming out, I knew it was going to be a good time. That was really fun. I'll end the recording. Can I just check, is everyone happy for me to post the video from that? Of course, if you change your mind, just let me know and I'll